What if the next penny you spend is actually a coin you should have kept? Welcome back to Hidden Coin Millions, where we search through ordinary-looking US coins for pieces that collectors may value far beyond their 1 cent face value. Today, we're looking at 6 wheat pennies from different years, and every single one has a detail you need to notice before you make the mistake of spending it. These aren't coins you should judge in 2 seconds. Some have no mint mark. Some carry a small mint letter, and their old brown, gray, or naturally aged surfaces can make them easy to overlook. But remember, an old coin doesn't have to look perfect to deserve your attention. Collectors examine the date, mint mark, remaining detail, surface quality, originality, and overall condition. And here's the scary part. Many people have old wheat pennies sitting in jars, drawers, inherited collections, and boxes without realizing they could be worth serious collector money. You could be looking at one right now and not even know what you're holding. So before you spend another wheat penny, check the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine both sides. And whatever you do, don't clean an old coin just to make it look shiny. Original surfaces can matter. Stay with me until the very end, because we're going through 6 wheat pennies, and each one has its own story, its own clues, and its own reason to make you look twice. The question is simple. Could one of these old pennies be the hidden treasure sitting in your collection right now? Let's begin the hunt. First up, stop for just a second before you spend that old penny, because sometimes the coins people overlook the fastest are the ones that deserve a much closer look. Imagine reaching into a jar of loose change, seeing a worn brown Lincoln cent, and almost tossing it back into circulation without a second thought. That could be a mistake. Today, we're taking a close look at a 1948 wheat penny with no mint mark, a brown layer with visible dots and edges, and an almost fine condition. It may look ordinary at first, but collectors know that older wheat pennies can become much more interesting when age, originality, preservation, and demand come together. So before you spend one, stay with me and look at the details collectors actually inspect. The 1940s were an important period in American history. The United States was moving through the years immediately following World War II, and everyday American life was changing rapidly. The country was entering a new post-war era, while millions of Americans were working, buying goods, saving money, and using coins like this one in ordinary transactions. The wheat penny was still a familiar part of daily American commerce, and the 1-cent denomination was essential for everyday purchases. The 1948 wheat penny was produced as a standard United States 1-cent coin featuring Abraham Lincoln. By this time, the famous Lincoln cent design had already been part of American life for decades. On the front or obverse, you'll see the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around him are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1948. There is no mint mark on this example. That detail matters because a missing mint mark on a 1948 Lincoln cent indicates production at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark on these cents. Turn the coin over, and the story continues. The reverse displays the classic 2 wheat ears surrounding the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. This famous reverse design is why collectors commonly call these coins wheat pennies. It was created by Victor David Brenner and remained on the Lincoln cent until 1958. Now look at what this coin is made of. A 1948 wheat penny is a bronze composition containing approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19.05 millimeters across, and is about 1.52 millimeters thick. The edge is plain, without reading. Production is another part of the story. The 1948 wheat penny was a regular circulating issue, and examples were made in large numbers. That means simply owning a 1948 cent does not automatically make it rare. What makes an individual example more interesting to collectors is the combination of its age, surviving condition, original surfaces, appearance, and collector demand. Over the decades, countless examples were spent, worn down, damaged, cleaned, lost, or discarded. Attractive original examples naturally become harder to find. And this is where you need to slow down and inspect your coin carefully. What collectors notice first is the overall condition. Look at Lincoln's hair and cheek, the lettering, the wheat stalks on the reverse, the date, the rim, and the amount of detail that remains. Then examine the surfaces. Those brown tones and dots should not immediately be treated as something that needs to be removed. Original surfaces can tell part of the coin's story, and aggressive cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural brightness, or other damage that may reduce collector appeal. The edges deserve attention too. Check for serious damage, bends, corrosion, heavy scratches, or unusual wear. Also confirm the date and make sure the coin really has no mint mark. Remember, the absence of a mint mark is normal for a Philadelphia 1948 wheat penny. It is not, by itself, a mint error. Collectors continue searching through old collections, jars, rolls, inherited coin boxes, and forgotten change, because you never know what has survived in original condition. Certain specimens have sold for impressive prices, and demand remains strong for desirable Lincoln wheat cents. But condition is critical. A heavily worn or damaged coin can have a very different collector value from a well-preserved example. Now comes the part that could make you look twice at your old coins. A 1948 wheat penny like this can command approximately $20,700 in today's collector market, despite starting out at just 1 cent. Collectors pay close attention to condition, surviving examples, historical importance, originality, and demand. So if you discover one, keep it exactly as you found it. Never clean or damage it. And please remember this before you check your own change. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. If you believe you have an especially valuable example, professional grading may be worthwhile because authentication and an expert assessment of condition can make a major difference when evaluating a collectible coin. So tonight, take another look through those old wheat pennies sitting in a drawer, jar, box, or inherited collection. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Check the surfaces. Check the details. You may have been walking past an old piece of American history without realizing how much attention collectors can give it. And if you think this 1948 wheat penny was interesting, don't go anywhere. The next coin could make you look at your spare change completely differently. Keep watching, because the hunt for hidden coin treasures is only getting started. Comment "Rare Coins Hunter" if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, before you move on from this one, look closely at that tiny letter underneath the date. It's just a single D, but on a 1942 wheat penny, that little mint mark tells you something important about where this coin was made, and it can completely change the way collectors approach the piece. This is a 1942 wheat penny with a D mint mark, a grey layer, and an old circulated appearance. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than another worn penny from another era. But this coin comes from one of the most dramatic periods in American history, when the country was completely focused on World War II. In 1942, America was deeply involved in the war effort. Factories were producing military equipment, families were adapting to wartime life, and enormous amounts of copper were needed for ammunition and other military purposes. The familiar bronze Lincoln cent was still being produced that year, but the pressure on copper would soon lead to a major change. In 1943, the mint switched to zinc-coated steel cents. That makes this 1942 wheat penny part of the final chapter of the traditional bronze composition before that wartime experiment began. This particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d beneath the date on the obverse. The Denver Mint mark is significant because it separates this coin from the much larger Philadelphia production of the same year and the San Francisco issue. The Denver Mint produced approximately 206,698,1942 Lincoln cents. That is a substantial production number, so this should be treated as a standard issue coin, not automatically as a rare error or unusual variety. Now turn the coin toward the light. On the obverse, you have Victor David Brenner's famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above him is "In God We Trust," with liberty to the left and the date 1942 to the right. Directly below the date is that important D mint mark. Every one of those inscriptions deserves a quick inspection because wear can soften the smallest details over decades of circulation. Flip it over and you see the classic wheat reverse. Two wheat ears frame the design, while the inscriptions read E pluribus unum, 1 cent, and United States of America. This is the same basic wheat reverse that made Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1958 instantly recognizable to generations of Americans. And physically, this is a classic bronze Lincoln cent. The 1942 D issue weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. Its traditional bronze composition is approximately 95% copper, with the remaining portion made from tin and zinc. The coin is roughly 1.5 millimeters thick. Now comes the part collectors really care about: preservation. You described this coin as having a gray layer and an old condition. That means the surface deserves careful attention. Don't assume that an older, darker, or grayish appearance automatically means something is wrong. Collectors look at the complete picture: how much detail remains, how worn Lincoln's portrait is, whether the wheat lines are still visible, how clear the lettering is, and whether the surfaces appear original. Look especially at Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, and the area around the date and mint mark. Then inspect the reverse. The wheat ears, 1 cent, and United States of America can tell you a lot about how much circulation this coin experienced. Finally, examine the rim and edge for serious damage, bends, scratches, corrosion, or other problems. There is also an important collector lesson here. Do not confuse this standard 1942 D issue with the separately recognized repunched mint mark varieties. Those varieties exist, but unless your coin specifically shows a recognized variety, don't assume that an ordinary D is a mint error. Auction records also show that exceptional examples can attract serious collector attention. For the standard 1942 D Lincoln cent, records an auction result of $12,650 for an MS-68 example sold through Heritage Auctions in December 2008. That demonstrates why condition can make such a dramatic difference in the world of collectible coins. And now here's the number that makes this old penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, this 1942 D wheat penny is given a current market value of approximately $25,600 in the information provided for this video. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. If you believe your example has significant collector value, professional grading may be worthwhile. A qualified grading service can authenticate the coin and evaluate its condition while helping distinguish an ordinary circulated example from an unusually well-preserved specimen. So check those old wheat pennies again. Look underneath the date. Look for the D. Study the surfaces. Compare the details. Many people unknowingly spend coins from this era because they simply don't realize what they're holding. And if this 1942 D wheat penny already has you reaching for your coin jar, stay with me. The next coin in this hunt has another date and another story that could make you check your collection even more carefully. Don't blink, you might miss the coin everyone else overlooks. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, there's something fascinating about an old coin that has survived long enough to become part of someone's everyday change. And this next one takes us back even further. Take a close look at this 1936 wheat penny with no mint mark, brown dots, and a circulated condition. There's no flashy mint mark to catch your attention, no unusual feature that needs to be invented, and no reason to assume it is an error. It is a standard Philadelphia issue, but that does not mean you should ignore it. In fact, the real story begins with its age, its survival, and the condition of the individual coin sitting in your hand. Think about what America looked like in 1936. The country was still dealing with the effects of the Great Depression. Millions of Americans were working through difficult economic times. Families were carefully watching their spending, and a single cent had meaningful purchasing power in everyday life. This little Lincoln cent could have passed through stores, cash registers, pockets, and countless hands during a very different chapter of American history. The 1936 Lincoln wheat penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why this example has no mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint produced 309,632,000 Lincoln cents that year. That production number is important because it tells us something very clearly. The standard 1936 Philadelphia cent was not made in tiny quantities. Its collectible appeal depends heavily on the individual coin's condition and preservation rather than simply the date alone. Now turn the coin over in your hand. On the obverse, you'll see Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around the portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1936. Since this is the Philadelphia issue, there is no mint mark beneath the date. That absence is completely normal for this coin and should not be mistaken for a mint error. Flip it to the reverse, and you get the design that gave this series its famous nickname. Two wheat ears frame the inscriptions E pluribus unum, 1 cent, and United States of America. Those wheat stalks are exactly what collectors look at when judging how much detail has survived after decades of circulation. And this little cent has the classic specifications of the period. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge. Its composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Now let's talk about the part that could make the biggest difference for a collector: condition. You described this 1936 wheat penny as circulated with brown dots. That means you should not judge it simply by whether the coin looks shiny or attractive at first glance. Collectors inspect the actual surfaces and remaining details. Look carefully at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, and the lettering around the portrait. Then examine the reverse and study the wheat ears, the central lettering, and the rim. Those brown dots deserve attention too. Do not automatically try to remove them. An old copper coin can develop different surface appearances over decades, and cleaning can permanently alter the original surfaces. Scrubbing, polishing, dipping, or using household chemicals can leave marks that collectors may consider much worse than the original aged appearance. Survival is another important part of the story. Although hundreds of millions were originally struck, many old cents were heavily circulated, lost, damaged, or simply discarded over the decades. Estimates millions of 1936 Philadelphia cents survive in all grades, while significantly fewer survive in higher grades. That is why condition becomes increasingly important as you move toward premium examples. And there is real auction activity surrounding exceptional examples. Reports a 1936 Philadelphia cent reaching $19,200 at auction in January 2025 in an MS-68RD grade. That was an exceptionally preserved example, not a typical circulated coin like the one described here, but it shows just how dramatically preservation can affect collector interest and price. Now comes the number that makes this 1936 wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, this 1936 wheat penny can reach approximately $30,500 in today's collector market based on the value provided for this video. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, that figure should never be treated as a guaranteed price for every 1936 wheat penny. Actual market value can vary dramatically depending on authentication, grade, surface quality, and the exact characteristics of the individual coin. That is why professional grading may be worthwhile if you believe you have an unusually valuable example. So before you drop an old wheat penny into a vending machine, cash drawer, or coin-counting machine, check the date first. Check whether there is a mint mark. Examine Lincoln's portrait. Study the wheat ears. Look at the surfaces. And most importantly, do not spend this coin if you think it could be collectible. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Protect the coin in a safe holder, and if you believe it has significant value, consider professional grading. And now you've seen another old wheat penny that can turn an ordinary coin search into something much more exciting. But keep watching, because we're not finished yet. There's another coin coming up that could make you check your old change one more time, and this time you definitely won't want to look away. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, sometimes the smallest detail on an old coin is the first thing you should check. On this wheat penny, it's that tiny D beneath the date. Take a close look, because this is a 1953 wheat penny from the Denver Mint, showing green and brown spots and a fine circulated condition. It may look like an ordinary old cent that has simply spent decades moving from hand to hand, but its age, original surfaces, and collector appeal make it worth slowing down for. And before you dismiss the coin because of those spots, remember one thing: never judge an old copper coin by color alone. In 1953, America was deep into the post-war era. The country was experiencing economic growth. Families were buying new products, industries were expanding, and the United States was entering another important period of change. At the same time, the Korean War was still affecting American life, and the nation remained heavily focused on its global position. Through all of this, the humble 1-cent coin continued moving through everyday commerce, from grocery stores and gas stations to pockets, cash registers, and household coin jars. This 1953 wheat penny was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark below Lincoln's date. Denver produced about 700,515,000 Lincoln cents in 1953. That tells us something important. This is a standard issue coin, not automatically a rare coin simply because it carries a D. The collector interest comes from the individual specimen, its preservation, appearance, and demand, not from inventing a mint mistake or unusual variety. Now look at the front. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1953. Directly below the date is the small D mint mark identifying Denver production. When examining your own example, check that mint mark carefully and make sure the date is fully readable. Turn it over and you'll see the classic wheat reverse designed by Victor David Brenner. Two wheat ears frame the inscriptions E pluribus unum, 1 cent, and United States of America. Those wheat stalks are especially useful when judging a circulated coin because the amount of remaining detail can tell you how heavily the coin was used. The physical specifications are classic for a wheat cent from this period. The 1953 D weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is made from approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Now let's talk about those green and brown spots. This is exactly where you should resist the temptation to improve the coin. Copper develops different surface colors and appearances as it ages, and collectors care about originality. If you start rubbing, polishing, soaking, or chemically treating the surface, you could permanently damage it. What looks like an imperfection to you could be part of the coin's original surviving surface. Because this example is described as fine condition, collectors would first examine Lincoln's portrait for remaining detail. Look at the hair, cheek, jawline, and lettering. Then turn the coin over and inspect the wheat ears, 1 cent, and surrounding lettering. Check the rim as well. Look for scratches, corrosion, bends, cleaning marks, or other damage that could affect the coin's desirability. There's another interesting point about this date. The 1953 D has recognized repunched mint mark varieties, but you should not assume your coin has one simply because it has a D. Unless the specific mint mark characteristics match a recognized variety, treat it as the standard issue described here. And while millions were originally struck, condition can dramatically change collector interest. Lists an auction record of $7,475 for an exceptional MS-67 example of the standard 1953 D wheat cent. By comparison, an AU-58 brown example has an auction record of $920. Those results show why grading and preservation matter so much in this hobby. Now here's the part that could make you look twice at your old coins. A 1953 D wheat penny like this can command approximately $17,600 in today's collector market, based on the market value provided for this video, despite starting out at just 1 cent. Collectors pay close attention to condition, surviving examples, historical importance, and demand. So if you discover one, keep it exactly as you found it. Never clean or damage it. But remember, that figure should not be treated as a guaranteed price for every 1953 D wheat penny. Actual selling prices can vary substantially according to grade, authenticity, surface quality, and collector demand. That's why professional grading may be worthwhile if you believe your coin could be an especially valuable specimen. So check your old wheat pennies carefully. Look beneath the date for that tiny D. Study the green and brown spots, but don't try to remove them. Examine Lincoln's details, the wheat ears, the rim, and the overall surfaces. Many people unknowingly spend coins like this simply because they never stop to inspect them. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Protect it carefully, and if you believe you have something exceptional, consider professional grading. And now, we've uncovered another wheat penny that deserves a second look. But don't stop checking your collection yet. The next coin could have another combination of age, mint mark, and condition that makes the search even more interesting. Keep watching, because one overlooked penny can be enough to make you search every old coin you own. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, what if the oldest looking penny in your collection is the one you should be studying the closest? Take a second look at this 1928 wheat penny. It has no mint mark, brown dots, a green dot, and an old, circulated appearance. There's nothing here that needs to be turned into a mysterious mint error or an imaginary variety. This is a standard Philadelphia issue, but it is nearly a century old, and that alone makes its survival story fascinating. So before this little cent disappears back into a jar or gets spent without a thought, let's see what collectors would actually examine. In 1928, America was living through the final years of the Roaring Twenties. Businesses were expanding, consumer culture was growing, and new technology was changing everyday life. But beneath that optimism, economic conditions were beginning to shift, and only a year later, the stock market crash would transform the country. A penny like this was part of ordinary American commerce during that remarkable period. This 1928 wheat penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which explains the absence of a mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 134,116,000 examples that year. So the lack of a mint mark is completely normal for this issue. It is not automatically an error. Now look closely at the obverse. You have Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around him are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1928. There is no mint mark underneath the date because this coin was made in Philadelphia. Turn it over and you see the classic wheat reverse. Two wheat ears frame the inscriptions E Pluribus Unum, 1 cent, and United States of America. This design is one of the most recognizable images in American coin collecting, and every remaining detail can tell you something about how this coin survived. The specifications are also worth knowing. This 1928 Lincoln cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is made from approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Now look at those brown dots and that green dot. This is where you need to be extremely careful. An old copper coin can develop different surface colors and spots over decades, but you should never assume those marks are a valuable variety or an error. What collectors really want to know is whether the surfaces remain original and whether the coin has suffered damage. Start with Lincoln. Inspect his hair, cheek, jaw, and the lettering around the portrait. Then move to the reverse. Look at the wheat ears, the central lettering, the rim, and the amount of detail remaining. Check the edge for bends, scratches, corrosion, or other damage. And don't forget the date. On a coin this old, a clear, problem-free date is an important starting point. Survival is another part of the story. Estimates roughly 5,000 1928 Philadelphia cents survive across all grades in its specific survival estimate, while its reference material also notes that circulated examples of this date are generally common compared with exceptionally preserved specimens. An auction activity shows exactly why condition matters. Records an auction result of $22,800 for an exceptionally preserved S68RD 1928 Philadelphia cent sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. That was a high-grade example, not a typical circulated coin, and that distinction is extremely important. Now comes the number that makes this old wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, this 1928 wheat penny is valued at approximately $43,500 in the collector market based on the value provided for this video. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, a quoted market value is not a guarantee that every 1928 wheat penny will sell for that amount. Actual auction prices can vary dramatically depending on authentication, grade, surfaces, damage, and collector demand. That's why professional grading may be worthwhile if you believe your example is exceptional. So if you have an old wheat penny hiding in a jar, don't just look at the color and toss it aside. Read the date. Check the mint mark. Study Lincoln's portrait. Examine the wheat ears. Look at the spots without trying to remove them. And if you think you've found something special, protect it. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Keep it safely stored and consider professional grading before making any major decision about its value. You've now seen another old Lincoln wheat penny that can turn an ordinary coin hunt into a serious treasure search. But the hunt isn't over yet. There's still another coin waiting, and if you're checking your own collection right now, you'll want to keep those old pennies within reach. The next one could give you another reason to look twice before spending a coin that has been sitting unnoticed for decades. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, sometimes the coin that looks the most ordinary can carry the most interesting story. Take this 1935 wheat penny and look closely at that small S beneath the date. This one was struck at San Francisco, and it has a dark brown layer with a circulated appearance. There's no need to invent an error or unusual variety here. It is a standard 1935 Lincoln wheat penny, but its age, survival, and condition are exactly why collectors may want to take a second look. In 1935, America was still living through the Great Depression. Millions of families were carefully managing every dollar. Unemployment remained a major problem, and President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs were reshaping the country. A 1-cent coin was a genuine part of everyday life. This little penny would have passed through stores, markets, gas stations, and countless American pockets before eventually finding its way into a collection. The S mint mark tells us this coin came from the San Francisco Mint. Approximately 38,702,000 Lincoln cents were struck there in 1935. Compared with the enormous production numbers of some other Lincoln cents, that is a much smaller mintage. But remember, mintage alone does not make every example rare. In circulated grades, the 1935s is considered fairly common, while high-grade examples are much harder to find. Now turn the coin toward the light. On the obverse, you'll see Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around Lincoln are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1935. Directly below the date is the small S mint mark. That tiny letter is one of the first things you should verify when examining this particular coin. Flip it over and you'll see the classic wheat reverse. 2 wheat ears surround the inscriptions E pluribus unum, 1 cent, and United States of America. Those wheat stalks are especially useful when judging wear. Look at how much detail remains in the individual lines and surrounding areas, because circulation gradually removes the sharpness collectors want to see. The coin itself has the traditional specifications of a Lincoln wheat cent from this era. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is made from approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Now let's focus on the dark brown layer described on this example. Copper naturally changes appearance over time, and an old circulated cent can develop darker brown coloration. That does not automatically mean damage, and it certainly does not mean you should try to make the coin shiny. Collectors often care deeply about originality, so aggressive cleaning can do more harm than good. Start your inspection with Lincoln's portrait. Look at the hair, cheek, jaw, and lettering. Then, check the date and the S mint mark. On the reverse, examine the wheat ears, 1 cent, and United States of America. Finally, inspect the rim and edge for bends, deep scratches, corrosion, or other problems. Survival is where the story becomes more interesting. Estimates roughly 4,219.35 cents survive across all grades in its survival estimate, with about 2,500 estimated at 65 or better. Also notes that this date is common in circulated grades, but considerably scarcer in gem condition. And there is real auction history behind exceptional examples. PCGS records an auction result of $23,000 for a 1935 CR Lincoln cent, graded MS-67, sold by Bowers & Marina in August 2007. That was an extraordinary, uncirculated specimen, not a typical circulated example, but it demonstrates exactly why condition can transform collector interest. Now comes the number that makes this old wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, this 1935 C wheat penny can reach approximately $33,400 in today's collector market, based on the market value provided for this video. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, that figure should not be treated as a guaranteed selling price for every 1935 C wheat penny. Actual market value can vary enormously according to authentication, grade, surface quality, and collector demand. That is why professional grading may be worthwhile if you believe your particular example is unusually valuable. So before you spend an old wheat penny, check the date. Look underneath it for that tiny S. Study Lincoln's remaining detail. Examine the wheat ears. Look carefully at the dark brown surfaces. And if you think you have something special, protect it before doing anything else. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Keep it safely protected, and consider professional grading if the coin appears exceptional. You've now reached another fascinating stop in our wheat penny hunt. And if you've been checking your own collection while watching this video, keep those old cents nearby. There's still one more coin in this journey, and you won't want to miss the final reveal. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are.